Gather around the fire, get some of that sweet Bugman's brew, and welcome to the showdown between the Dwarves, who shall be led by Sofa Muncher, and the Greenskins, who are going to be helmed by 353-280-4515. Wonder if there's any significance to that number. So as far as the build of the Dawi goes, in the front line, it's going to be very different. So typically, or historically I should say, this has been a very tough matchup for the Dwarves. I would say that the Greenskins probably have like a 60-40 kind of win rate against Dawi. The Black Orcs are very effective. They have some really good lore choices for combat, of course, and you can use like Ere We Go and the Bonewood Staff with Wurzog, or even AZHAG. I mean, he's a great AP character, can really take out those Dwarf characters with Spirit Leech and his Focus Fire. Yeah, I mean, the Greenskins just have a ton of good options. As far as harassing the backline goes, they have nasty Skulkers. They have all sorts of cheap shielded Skirmisher Cav and Forest Goblin Spider Riders, so it's certainly a little bit tricky. Now, what Dwarves would do in response to this is they go super wide. So you used to see a bunch of Dwarves get like Miners and Dwarf Warriors and a bunch of Thunders in the back and really kind of try to pull the Greenskins through the mud, just using your, the sustainability of low tier Dwarf troops, because even Dwarf Warriors are pretty durable. They have good leadership, and against like, even higher tier infantry, they can hold relatively long, which then allows you to get Runes of Wrath and Ruin and Thunderer Fire and things like that. But in this case, you can see this fine gentleman, the Sofa Muncher, going to be going for a very different build. So he does have Longbeards on the flanks, it looks like, and Longbeards with great weapons are pretty solid. They will lose pretty bad against Black Orcs, but nonetheless, they can put a little bit of hurt on those guys. They can hold with their 38 melee defense, and they have charge defense against large foes. So if you're taking cav charges from the flanks, from Orc Boars or Chariots or anything like that, they do have the charge defense. And I like to use these guys as a bit of a secondary troop. So I don't like putting them in the front to just fight, Black Orcs fisticuff, because oftentimes they get taken out very quickly and it's not the most cost-effective trade. But using them in the secondary, so let Ironbreakers take the beating, follow up with these guys, and then, they're going to be a little bit more solid in that. Plus they're immune to Psych, which is going to be good against Dr. Doom and Darkness up here. For the front line, though, this is what's very different about this build here. He's got Ironbreakers, he has Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, and then more Ironbreakers here. Now, this is another school of play that you do sometimes see from Dwarf players, just kind of the glorious tanky Helm's Deep, just trying to outlast your opponent using the rune magic and just, trying to endure. So we're going to see if it works. He does also have the Grumbling Guard here in the back. He has a cannon, 2 groups of Thunders, which are going to be providing some very, much needed damage output because, of course, Ironbreakers and those troops, aside from their blasting charges, I mean, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot against Black Orcs. Their AP is relatively low and their offensive stats are just, average. Here in the back, we got the Dragonback Slayers plus Giant Slayers, so a little bit more punch here in the back line. Going to be trying to protect the Dawi cannons and guns with these guys, but there's certainly a lot of Greenskins, so we're going to see how that goes. For the Greenskins, for the Wa, and I can't quite remember his name because it was a bunch of numbers, but nonetheless, he does have AZHAG up in the skies. AZHAG, a very good character here. You have to be careful because he can be sniped. Of course, he's a big target, so Thunders and Cannons can kind of shoot him freely, but most high-level players are pretty good at juking out Cannons. You just kind of zigzag and go back and forth, and you can usually dodge, not all of the shots, but a lot of them. Spirit Leech is, of course, going to be pretty good against the Rune Lord, despite the magic resist. Over the course of a long fight, it can accrue value, and even Spirit Leech against, like, these elite troops, like Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, isn't bad either. So AZHAG's going to be cackling up in the skies, and for the rest of the Greenskin army, it's actually going to be a bunch of Goblin Rocklobbers. So also a very different army. Oftentimes Greenskins just use Black Orcs, Squig Herds, and like just a ton of just bull rushing units, and I find that to be a little bit more effective, but the Goblin Rocklobbers against like this type of build, it might not be bad, just kind of getting the value, just shooting at Norgrimling's Ironbreakers and troops like that, because they do have okay AP. So we'll see how these Rocklobbers do. So he does have 3 of those bad boys here, and I don't know if he has the ROR. Yes, he does have the Hammer of Gork. He's got a couple Skulkers protecting this. Goblins in the front with the Warlord's Boys, plus I believe the AP Gloony Stone just looks like Warlord's Boys. In the back, he does have Rusty Arrows and a Night Goblin Archers for a little bit of armor sundering. Some Squig Herds, which is also quite standard in this matchup. And it looks like he has a bunch of Black Orcs. So Black Orcs in the back 3 groups, certainly going to be the staple of his army. But 3 Black Orcs, I mean, they're going to have their work cut out for him. This is no slouch of a Dawi force. You can see here Ironbreakers plus guns plus Longbeards. That is a lot of meat just for 3 Black Orcs to push through. So those cannons and other troops are going to have to get their value. So on that note, guys, let me take a sip of water and oh, that was good. It was like sparkling carbonated water. I didn't used to drink that, like sparkling water, before I went to Europe and started hanging out in Poland with my lovely wife. And from there, it's like a pretty common thing, right? Like getting the sparkling water, but I started to kind of grow a taste for it here. Anyways, AZHAG on the flanks going to be dropping an overcasted Spirit Leech, maybe? I'm not sure if it was overcast, but he does Spirit Leech the Rune Lord, which is the classic Warhammer 1 tactic of just flying AZHAG around and just Spirit Leeching the Dwarf Lords and running. Oh god, that was so horrible before they nerfed Spirit Leech. But anyways, the Rocklobbers are taking some pretty decent little pot shots, and it looks like the Dwarves may decide to endure this and just kind of weather the storm. They could advance here, which probably wouldn't be a terrible idea considering they just have the cannon to protect, really. I mean, they could leave like some Slayers back there, but it's a little bit tricky because AZHAG is going to be lurking there. It kind of puts you in a bit of a weird situation. The longer you wait, the more you're going to get Spirit Leech as well. So that is an overcasted Spirit Leech, and it doesn't do more damage. When you overcast Spirit Leech, it actually increases the range. So for example, if AZHAG doesn't want to fly close, he can overcast. And at this point, I think the dwarf player realizes he's like, I gotta go, I gotta get in there. And I'm not sure if he's gonna forsake the cannon and leave it alone, which would be a little bit tricky. The cannon, in the meantime, looks like it was shooting back and going after the Hammer of Gork. It has killed a couple of the crew members, but for the most part, it hasn't been able to snipe anything of value yet. A little bit of a tough start here for the dwarves, taking that damage on the Rune Lord there. He's already down to half health, which is tricky. He doesn't have the biggest HP pool. But again, all dwarves do have the base 25% magic resist, so he is going to be somewhat durable against that, but nonetheless, it's still not the greatest. Here, the Thunders are going to be opening up shop on AZHAG. They do kind of screen out a little bit, so getting a couple decent shots here on AZHAG, but he does pop the Foe Seeker, which is going to help him kind of slip away here. 24% speed, putting up to 137, so this guy's just a straight-up track star. Is he going to be jumping in here? Is he thinking about going in for the risky gambit? No, he's just going to be dropping a Spirit Leech. Yeah, but I think going in after the Rune Lord would be a huge mistake. With all these dwarves nearby, it'd be a little bit tricky. Giant Slayers, Dragonback Slayers, all that kind of stuff. So the Spirit Leech continuing, throwing us back to the trauma of Warhammer 1, the very early days when Spirit Leech spam was really kind of the way to go. But again, Greenskins can also get a ton of value from force multipliers, like using the Wa and the Bonewood Staff and Ere We Go from the Big Wa lore magic, which I think is, I don't know. Spirit Leech is doing pretty well, but I still think Big Wa is quite a bit better in this matchup, but even still, Spirit Leech and Buna can be quite good against Ironbreakers and things like that. So in the back, some of the Dawi Thunders are starting to take a little bit of perpetual damage here from these catapults. The Rock Lobbers and the Hammer of Gork are getting in there. I would probably honestly shoot the Norgrimlings Ironbreakers. I mean, I guess the Thunders, there's 2 of them, I think. It looks like, yeah, there's 2 in total, but the Ironbreakers are a little bit more tightly packed as well, so maybe that would be a better option, but here we go. I mean, he's still shooting, getting some decent value, so it's not a waste. I mean, they're certainly paying for themselves. But now the dwarf forces are going to be advancing. AZHAG looks like he's kind of in a bit of an indecisive state here, thinking if he wants to go back after the cannon. But you can see here the Dragonback Slayers have been left back there, which I think is the right choice. Maybe putting the Giant Slayers back there and bringing the Dragonback Slayers up here just to get that slow, I think might be a little bit better. But nonetheless, Thunder's down to 34 models of their 60. They're shaken, not stirred, and we're going to see if they can last here. So the dwarf forces are going to be advancing. The Ironbreakers are going to be trudging through the swamp here, which I believe is going to have a multitude of penalties for both forces, because fighting in water, if you don't have the aquatic trait, does yield a penalty. But the goblins are going to be coming out for an ambush. Ironbreakers are going to be surging in, and I mean, even though these nasty skulkers are AP, Ironbreakers have incredibly high melee defense, so they should be able to hold here. Plus, they do also have the support of these Longbeards, but I mean, this is still cost effective for the Greenskins. So the Wa's been popped. The dwarves are a little bit kind of isolated in several areas, so this very elite pocket here is going to be fighting. But the Black Orcs are coming right up the pipe, and the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin is going to be getting dropped on those Black Orcs. And the Ironbreakers, we're going to see if they can hold. Norgrimlings are going to be taking the brunt of the beating here, fending off these goblins with a blasting charge volley. And then the Black Orcs right here are going to be getting slapped with the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which is very good. But nonetheless, Ironbreakers are taking a lot of damage from those Black Orcs. AZHAG flying in the skies, but very good discipline here by the dwarves. Keeping the Giant Slayer near the Rune Lord because AZHAG is just waiting for that booty. That's what he really wants. Granted, AZHAG should probably just died right here. There's really no reason to come to him. Or you could go after the Thunders here in the back. You can see the Dwarf Cannon is pretty much trained on him. It's just been shooting at him this entire time, but he's been flying back and forth, doing some pretty good jukes for sure, so well played there. And in the front line, Norgrimlings Ironbreakers are starting to kind of stabilize a little bit. The Rune of Wrath and Ruin has helped these guys who are taking missile fire, but that 86 melee defense is so rock hard against 37 melee attack, so the Black Orcs' chance to actually hit these guys, even though they have like really good AP, is going to be relatively low. But again, with the Wa's pop, that's when they got most of their damage in, but once the Wa did wear off, these guys seem to be stabilizing quite a bit better. Over here, the dwarves have a good situation. Ironbreakers, Giant Slayers, Grumbling Guards, all these guys are piling in, and they are able to kind of doggy pile here on the Skulkers, but regardless, the Greenskins are pulling ahead in the balance of power, largely due to the fact that the Rune Lord is really just getting pounded. And is he actually dead? No, he's fighting in the front, but I mean, there's probably a couple more Spirit Leeches left, so I think he's just going to get Spirit Leech out of the game, which is a little bit tough, and yeah, looks like he might be. I mean, he only has 670 HP. He's going to be taking fire. At this point, AZHAG has just been kind of like a shark up in the skies, just flying around. He's probably going to be jumping down on the Rune Lord here just to finish him off, which I think would be the correct decision. So yeah, he's going to be going in here. The Dragonback Slayers and company probably realize it's a bit of a foregone conclusion here to try and protect him, but maybe the Giant Slayers could pull back. As far as the back line, the dwarves still do have a cannon online, so the cannon, I think, is still trained on AZHAG. Let's actually go ahead and take a look and see what it's shooting at. Looks like it's not aimed at him, so it's shooting at something. Fire! Fire, Dawi! It's going to be shooting downtown. It looks like it's actually going after some Black Orcs and Squeakherds here, trying to take out the mobility of the Greenskins. And AZHAG is going to be feasting on the souls of those Thunderers there. It's a little bit unfortunate there for the dwarves, but the Rune Lord surges back into the front line. That Dwarven leadership really holding fast. 482 HP. The Black Orcs are getting worn down here, and that's kind of the issue with this Greenskin army in some ways, is that even though they're very ahead right now, and obviously things are going very well for them, the Black Orcs, like, if they go, there's not a lot of other units on this Greenskin roster that are going to be good versus Ironbreaker. So if any Ironbreakers survive and the Black Orcs like somehow get worn down, I don't know, it's going to be tough. AZHAG will have his hands full for sure. But in the back, the Greenskin player is going to be jumping in with AZHAG to finish off the guns, which is good. Pretty much just use him to get rid of any threats to himself, right? In the back, some of these Skulkers do sneak through, so very unfortunate situation for the Dwarves, and you can see the Greenskins continue to pull ahead in the bounce of power here. And these Skulkers are just going to be chasing down these Dwarves here, but it looks like they're actually wavering for some reason. I don't think we can pause the game there. And let's see, they're wavering 11 leadership, so is there any support they have nearby? I mean, the Thunders might just want to turn and fight at this point, but again, the Skulkers will get the benefit of winning in combat. Oh man, brutal stuff as these two forces collide here. 73 Skulkers certainly going to be able to probably overwhelm 40 Thunders. Thunders are like kind of like Dwarf Warriors in terms of their combat prowess, but Skulkers are just so good against armored troops like that. We're going to see the wavering though. Oh, and they actually break. The proud Dwarves hold. Crazy stuff at 7 leadership. They're both wavering, so that's a very clutch situation there. Getting those guns back online. But the Rune Lord is still going. Somehow, some way, he does have 148 HP. Gremlins Ironbreakers are still fighting here in the front line. And over here, we have that giant pocket of just Dawi death. So it's going to be Giant Slayers and Ironbreakers fighting back to back. A couple loose blasting charges going into the mouths of those squigs right there. We're going to see if it makes a difference. But the squig herds are going to be getting crumped a little bit here. 32 Ironbreakers left, 15 Giant Slayers. In the back, the Dragonback Slayers, the true heroes of the Dawi Empire, are able to jump back here and actually start crumping some of these gits. So they're jumping all over the rusty airs. I mean, they are kind of like a Dwarf Cav unit in a way, 40 speed. And they were able to kind of push through these Black Orcs, and now they're going to be killing the archer units. So it's actually become a close game. Balance power is still pretty substantially in the favor of the Greenskins, and it's going to be really tough for the Dwarves to pull this one back simply because of how healthy AZHAG is. I mean, AZHAG's just been munching this. He's been munching all over these guys, and maybe a bit of a misplay staying this long against these Dwarf Thunders. I mean, AZHAG could be so much better suited to shut down this cannon or some of these Dwarf troops in the front line. I think he maybe overestimated the value of that Thunderer group there, or maybe just forgot about them. So back in the front, we have a couple Black Orcs still fighting. The Black Orcs do, of course, have 24 models against the 19 Ironbreakers. So these Ironbreakers really have just been MVPs. But the Dragonback Slayers are just doing work here in the back. They've been able to just fight. They are beating down the Black Orcs, but at great cost. You can see it always reminds me of Avengers. Remember, what did it cost? Anyways, you can see the Dragonback Slayers here are able to clean up shop, but they lost about 50-60% of their HP in that fight back there against the Black Orcs and the Archers. But nonetheless, a pretty big grab for the Dawi, and it looks like they might be clawing their way back a little bit. There are some Goblins over here, so we do, of course, have the Unbreakable Goblins with the Wa. That's going to be hard to push through, 103 of those bad boys. And we have 30 Ironbreakers here, Norgrimling still standing firm, and 25 right here. So that is quite a few Ironbreakers. In the meantime, AZHAG finally jumps over to the cannon, which is a good choice. Need to shut that bad boy down because the cannon is one of the things here that can, finish him off. A couple of the Dwarven guns have come back, so these guys were a little bit closer to the front line while AZHAG was chasing off that other group. And now they're actually getting some decent damage on him, and the cannon crew is still there. They're going to be turning around and shooting, I would imagine. But the nasty Skulkers are able to finish off the last of those Dwarven defenses in the back. And the cannon's going to be point blank shooting these guys. Guns are shooting as well. Are they going to break? Oh, that is really big. Breaking those Skulkers and actually shattering them is massive because now this Dwarf cannon is going to be able to shoot. I believe it has, let's go ahead and take a look. I just actually adjusted my keyboard there. So it has 3 shots left. So 3 shots is, I guess it's not super substantial. In the back here, we do have some Black Orcs who are going to be fighting. I believe this is the remnants of the Grumbling Guard. No, it's actually the Giant Slayers. So these brave Slayers are going to be fulfilling their oath in the swamps. And, oh, that guy got decapitated. And that is probably not the best way to go. But nonetheless, he will be remembered in the halls of the Dwarven Kingdom. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the battlefield. So suddenly that bounce of power switches back towards the middle. I mean, that was almost the point of no return, right? He was at like 30% in the bounce of power, but it looks like the Dawi resilience has really endured. And like I said, these Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, if you don't finish them off, I mean, not a lot of these troops are going to be great against them, aside from like AZHAG and the Black Orcs. So we'll do some fast forwarding as there is going to be some Benny Hill. The cannon is going to be shooting at AZHAG or some of the Black Orcs over here, actually. But it does run out of ammo. I think it has like 1 or 2 shots left. And AZHAG is going to be feasting on their souls, and the Dwarves are far too slow to kind of get back there and help. So at this point, they're going to be probably advancing on this Goblin Rock Clobber, which somehow managed to shoot, but the Dwarven guns have something to say about that, and you can see the Goblin Rock Clobber is going to be getting shut down by the Dwarven firepower. In the meantime, this Dwarven force is going to be advancing through the swamp, looking for those goodies, but it looks like the Greenskins are going to be running here, actually, so they're going to be going up and around here and probably trying to reunite with AZHAG, I would imagine. Now, I believe, in accordance with contemporary tournament rules and King's Cup, that is which most of the community uses. I mean, everyone has their own set of rules, and of course in the ladder, it's a Wild West, but I believe AZHAG wouldn't, if you're chasing a retreating unit with a single entity, I don't think it counts as engaging, so the rest of the forces would technically have to go and engage ASAP, but again, that is in a tournament setting, and this was a ladder game. So you can see here the Greenskins are going to be going around. The Night Goblins and the Black Orcs going to be trying to unite with AZHAG and form a bit of a last stand here. The Dragonback Slayers are pushing in pretty balls deep, trying to get aggressive here. And I mean, even their presence alone might break those Goblins, but they still have to fight through 16 Black Orcs, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. There's still 37 of these guys. So they do engage here. They're able to catch these guys, and these Black Orcs are getting crumped pretty good. good. I mean, they still have high melee attack, not the best AP. Oh, that karate kick coming in there. Beautiful stuff. And it looks like there's going to be a Spirit Leech on these Slayers, but they do not give a shit. They're going to take that Spirit Leech all day, and they're going to be finishing off these Black Orcs, avenging their fallen brethren. Beautiful stuff. I mean, that's how Slayer should be used, right? And here the Spirit Leech is going to continue to tick, but they're going to keep going. 1,000 HP. I mean, that's going to be a lot for AZHAG to deal with. I mean, healthy Slayers at this point in the game, that is not fun for the Greenskins. Bounce Power, a little bit in the favor of the Greenskins still. AZHAG is very, very healthy, but like I said, he's going to have to fight through these Slayers. And the Slayers, it looks like they pretty much polished off these Archers who have shattered. And now the Greenskins have no forces on the ground, aside from AZHAG, of course, who's landed at the moment. But if AZHAG runs, he's going to be taking a steady leadership penalty. So rather than fighting Slayers who are slowing him right now, I believe he's a little bit slowed. He's down to 97. Oh, boo-hoo, that's so slow. He's going to go back up in the sky and land. But the Ironbreakers aren't going to give up either. Those guys, especially Norngrumlings, will fight pretty hard and long. 605 HP on those guys. And the back on the other Ironbreakers, we have, let's see what it is. It looks like it's, 50 leadership, give or take. So the Dwarves are going to be swarming in, coming in with their shields, going to be shield backed in this giant demonic greenskin beast. I guess it's not demonic. I guess, well, somebody tell me the lore, actually, in the comments. I wouldn't mind, but nothing about the lore of the helmet he wears. I feel like it has some sort of warp, treachery, smells of it. The Dragonback Slayer is going to be piling in as well, and AZHAG's going to be fighting here, but that's not going to be enough. He's going to break. And the Dawi win it. What a crazy game, back and forth. I really thought the Dwarves were pretty doomed. This was actually the second time I watched the replay. The first time I was like, oh, how are they going to win this? It's just going to be a crumpin'. But they came back, and despite the Spirit Leech spam at the beginning, you know, the Dwarves, their durability, the Ironbreakers outlasted the Black Orcs with the support, of course, of Thunderers, Master Runes of Wrath and Ruin, and some help from the Slayers. And were able to do really well. So it was a cool build for sure. I don't know how that build would do against a very traditional Greenskin build against Dwarves, like one of the really meta ones that's very, very aggressive. But maybe it would do well. Who knows? It was an awesome build, a really, really fun game to watch. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that community cast between the Dwarves and the Greenskins, the classic grudge match. And thank you to Sofamuncher for sending that one in. And yeah, well played to the players here. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.